And making a repeat appearance, but under a new title, is the Mr. Kent Martin, the Coles County Sheriff. Welcome.
Thanks. Good to be here again, Jeff.
Yeah, good to see you. Now that you're the sheriff, I guess we'll start off is kind of what led you to want to be the Coles County Sheriff when you made that decision last year?
Things really just kind of all came together at the right time. Of course, when I announced I was the police chief here at Eastern and had been for a few years, got to the point where retirement was starting to be an option. So the timing just kind of fell together. It's like I could retire from here at the end of September, get a change of scenery, hopefully, if I got elected, and of course I did. But I wasn't ready to stop working yet.
Law enforcement's in your blood, as you could say.
It is, yeah. So it just provided me an opportunity to change agencies, but stay involved and stay going. And another big part of that, we had our youngest child at the time was 3, so gave me an opportunity to have some dad time to be with her for a bit and hang out before she got into school, but then again get back into the law enforcement world and get back to work. And
to get back, I mean, you have to run. It's an elected. Right. So take us through kind of when you decided the election part of running for sheriff in Coles County here.
That was an experience. I had never run for anything in my life. I didn't run for student council or anything. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing or what I was getting into. So I didn't really have a roadmap, and I thought, well, I'll just talk to some people that have run before and see what kind of advice they have. And I found out real quickly that there were about as many opinions and ideas as there were people that you talk to. So I just kind of did what I felt in my heart and what I felt was the right thing to do. And I went door to door through all 44 precincts in the county because, again, by the way the timeline fell, I had plenty of time to campaign, and I just tried to get out and meet as many people as I could and let them get to know me and tell them where I wanted to go and kind of what my beliefs were and my law enforcement philosophy. And it worked out, obviously, because here I am.
There you are. There you go, Michelle.
So what was your campaign strategy like? I know you said you went door to door and all that. Did you have any events?
I had a few events. We arranged some meet and greets as we got closer. I went to a couple of different places in Mattoon and Charleston, and then I hit some of the smaller communities out through the county and just gave people an opportunity to stop by and say hello and tell me what was on their mind. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of hard work, but it was very enjoyable too. I met a lot of really, really good people.
Are you one of those guys that knew at a young age that law enforcement was your career path, or when did you know that, hey, this is something I really like?
I almost don't want to say this because I'll take a lot of grief for it later. But when I was a kid, emergency was the show. That's before
Definitely
your time, Michelle, as she gives us the look of what are you talking about. But that was a show back in the 70s based out of Los Angeles that promoted paramedics and the fire department. So that was the big thing when you were
I remember that.
When you were a little boy growing up. So that was where
it started,
where I was looking first. But then as I got older and got wiser, I thought, I'm not going to be a fireman. I'm going to be a cop. And that was probably more when I got to college. I went to college at University of Tennessee at Martin, which is now a member of the same conference as Eastern. And I was a guy that stayed on the weekends. I was about 3.5 hours from home, so I wasn't a go home every weekend guy. And being a small campus, very similar to Eastern, I crossed paths with their officers.
Hopefully
usually like at the cafeteria or somewhere, never professionally, fortunately. But just kind of got to know a couple of them, got to talk to them a little bit, and thought, this looks appealing. It's a service-oriented field, and that kind of sparked my interest. So I got a job with with the police department there on campus, blocking buildings and stuff at night. We had students that did that, and then that transitioned into a dispatch job, and then when I got out, graduated, got into the field full time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Since when you take over a department, like when you come in, I know you said you had a little bit of guidance off air to get in under a chief deputy, but when you take over on December as the Coles County Sheriff, do you immediately go in with changes in your mind, or are you kind of an observe and implement as they go kind of guy?
I had developed a couple of ideas of things I wanted to consider, but I didn't do anything right out of the gate. I had said many times during the campaign, and I firmly believed this, that I wasn't going to change anything right away. And that was a very common question. What's the first thing you're going to do? What's the first thing you're going to change? It's like, well, the first thing I'm going to do is not really do anything. I'm going to take 90 days, 120 days, however long, and just observe, just see for myself how things are going, not even what needs change, but hey, this area over here is working really well, so let's not do anything with that. I just wanted some time to evaluate things on my own, and compare that with what people had told me.
Are you really still
what their
in
perceptions
that time frame
were.
when you
Right,
think about
yes,
it?
yeah, I am.
It's what, fourth month in?
Yeah, and I had promised to meet with everybody on my staff, and I think I've met with all of them but about 3 or so. So I'm getting input from them. They're the ones that are doing the work and are out there dealing with things and trying to operate within the policies and the directives and our various procedures and all that. So who better to learn from than them? Again, both sides. What do I need to work on, and what should I just keep my hands off of and not mess with?
It's been a tough time being a law enforcement officer in this country the last few years. So do you guys talk about what's going on nationally and some of the unfortunate things and try to see how you guys can not do those things or do things in a better way?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And if there is an event that comes out and is very public, like the ones that we've had, over the last couple of years.
The rallies and stuff.
Right. A use of force incident especially, we're a lot of times the first ones to look at that and say, man, maybe that wasn't how that needed to go, or maybe something could have been done better there. We're, at least the officers around here that I've interacted with and that I have spoken with, we're our own harshest critic. Sometimes what comes out, I think, is maybe a result of the public not fully understanding what law enforcement training consists of, or how fast a situation evolves or occurs. So I think law enforcement can do a lot better job of educating the public on this is what we did and this is why we had to do it.
Okay, makes sense. Michelle?
Yeah, so I know you were talking about like the budget and stuff. Does that include your body cams? Like, are those always on now because of, or did you guys always just have them?
No, we've had them up there for quite a while. At Eastern, we got those probably 5 years or so ago now, roughly. And the body cams are good. They document things. They give you a record of what happened, but they're also not the end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of things with them. And I'm not, obviously, the folks out here can't see, but I'm looking at you, or I'm facing you, where my body cam is pointing towards you, but I'm looking over here at Jeff.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the body camera is only going to obviously record, what's in
The
front
line
of
of
it
sight,
or
yeah.
where it's going. And the camera is a lot more precise, or a lot sharper than the human eye. So you may go back and watch something on a camera and say, oh, well, I I can see perfectly what that is, but the human eye doesn't work that way.
One of the questions I had, Michelle, a good question there is technology changes almost daily in this country with phones and cameras and how we do things. In the policing industry, does technology change a lot too, and you have to keep up on it, or are things going that direction, or are they
Yeah, I think there's a lot of change, a lot of evolution. It's just difficult for us to stay up with that because, of course, there's money.
Yeah, it's always on them.
Yeah, it's a money thing. And a lot of times we're not necessarily right on the cutting edge, especially in this part of the country where we're a smaller agency or a smaller municipality or a smaller county. We just don't have the budget to keep up with a lot of that stuff, but we do pretty well.
We were talking today with Coles County Sheriff, Mr. Kent Martin. Kent, if someone how would you describe the Kent Martin leadership style? What's your style out there?
Oh gosh. Well, one thing I learned early on is I don't expect people that I'm leading to do things that I haven't done or I wouldn't do. So I just try to set a good example. I empower people. So if I give you a task or a project or I expect you to be in charge of a shift or whatever, then I give you decision-making authority. I think that's an important piece to that. Now, obviously, there's some decisions that have to rise to my level. But if you're gonna have people do a job and you're gonna put them, give them the responsibility to do something, I think you have to give them a
little bit of leeway there.
Yeah,
makes sense. Is it a 24? Are you really on call 24/7 though? I mean, is there any time when you're not available, or are you the sheriff of the county? I mean, how's that work?
Well, my command staff and I have a pretty good system. One benefit of being in an agency like the sheriff's office, we've got a couple of different layers of supervision. So at Eastern, I'd get called a lot. At the county, if somebody has a problem, they can take it up with their sergeant, or then we have a lieutenant who's over the jail. We have a lieutenant who's over the patrol section, and we've got a captain and a chief deputy. So there's several layers where a lot of times things can get answered before they get to me.
Okay.
So
those are the things, I love to hear because you kind of get a feel for how everything works.
So yeah, in a sense, I mean, they could call me anytime, day or night, but typically that doesn't happen.
Okay, interesting. Shall I have any?
Yeah, so then what is your typical day? You don't have a typical day-to-day. Like, you don't have a set 9 to 5, or how does that work?
No, I pretty much can just work whenever I want to.
Oh, okay.
Now, with that being said, I understand that I need to be available. I need to be there. I need to do things. So I typically come in 8:15, 8:30, and then I'm there until whenever in the afternoon. A lot of times I'm there till 3:30, 4:30. Just depends, and sometimes I have things in the evening, a county board meeting or a sheriff's committee meeting or things.
Sure
It's not. I don't have a set.
Okay. Do you get invited
schedule,
to a lot of things though they want you to speak at? Or
Yeah, I have.
the president? And I know
quite
part
a
of the
few.
thing that you talked about when you ran for sheriff was your accountability and transparency and community oriented. So you like to be out there in those community events, I assume.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Okay. I got to ask you, since we just come off this weekend, any past problems in Charleston this weekend with the WEIU students and the unofficial event, or was
Well,
it
not that I've heard of yet.
That's good, right?
No.
I mean,
Right.
So, no thoughts, Michelle, on that?
No.
You were probably inside studying all weekend, right?
Yeah.
I figured.
Right.
100%.
How do you work with other agencies in Coles County? Like, if there is, I won't say an event, but there's something going on. I mean, Mattoon, Charleston, Lakeland, Eastern. How do you guys all work together?
We work very well together. We do a lot of planning. We do a lot of we anticipate things, or somebody will come up with, use unofficial as an example. Then,
Yeah.
somebody will say, hey, it's going to be unofficial weekend. Let's get our heads together and kind of map out what we're going to do.
Is sometimes like an unofficial just being visible, is that a helper?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep. So we work very well together in planning for events that come up, and then if we do have an incident of some type, we've all known, all the department heads, we've all known each other for a long time. We've all worked together. There really aren't any egos. So it's what can I do to help you with your incident that you're working on? Here's what I have to offer. Tell me what you need. Goes very well.
Job openings right now for the Coles County Sheriff's Department? What do you have open right now?
We have a few, yes. We're actually this weekend testing for correctional officers. So looking to get a few more of those on staff. There will be a written test and an oral interview with the Merit Commission. That's at the Police and Fire Training Facility out on Reynolds. And that's at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Coles County Crime Stoppers, I know that's been something. How often do they provide tips and things? I mean, are they a valuable tool?
They are a valuable tool, yeah.
Can you talk about
yeah.
that just a little, maybe for a minute?
Things roll in kind of in waves, it seems like. We may have a period where there's not a lot going on. We don't get a lot of information, and then we may have several roll in about unrelated things over the course of a few days or a week. Didn't have a lot of success, I guess, with that at Eastern, and I was never really sure why that didn't catch on here, but the sheriff's office and the other police departments proves to be pretty useful.
Yeah, it always seemed that maybe it was easier to talk to them than the whole we don't want to call law enforcement, the
Right.
scared thing. So,
And of course, it's anonymous. Is
yeah,
big
and also,
thing.
yeah, for sure. The other thing, and we get to Michelle in 1 second. The top 10 most wanted list is always fascinating me. I'm one of those weirdos that looks at that. Do you feel that like the current list that they're still in the county, or are they away, or I mean, how often do you look at that list and try to locate those folks?
We actually we're just looking at revising that a little last week or the week before, and there's a mix. Some of them are local, some of them we know have left the area, but it's just something we want to keep out there so we can hopefully keep the pressure on those people and eventually get them rounded up and taken into custody.
Wait, so what gets you on that list? What are some of the
Stuff you don't want to be caught doing. It was just
Right.
basically the top 10 most wanted criminals.
just from around this area
around
though,
Coles
not
County.
okay.
Yep, Coles County cases.
So yeah, go to their website. I'm one of those weirdos. I look at things like that. Cybercrime is another thing. It seems to be growing and growing and growing. Do you have an officer that excels in that, or do you worry about cybercrime from the sheriff's standpoint? How's it?
We don't have a specialist,
Okay,
for
I
lack
couldn't think of the word.
of
Yeah,
a better
thank you.
term, but we see some of it. Usually, those things are so they're so far away. They may even originate across the globe, or in another country somewhere. So they're just very difficult cases to work, but they can be worked. I said we have a couple of people that we'll start to investigate them, and we let them take them as far as they can. But sometimes we have to, bring in the state, or I suppose if it got to that level, we could even bring in some federal resources. But it would have to be a pretty big case to get to that level.
Okay. How many deputies and officers do you have for Coles County Sheriff's?
Right now, I think we've got 16 on the patrol side, and about that many in the jail.
Okay.
So, like I said, we need a few more back in the jail. But yeah, it's a pretty big group.
There you Every county has different gun laws, and I don't want to get into too much gun stuff, but is there any like odd laws or strange laws that maybe people don't know about for Coles County in terms of gun rules and laws that maybe could help educate, and so somebody doesn't do something dumb or wrong? Do you know of anything? I know you're newer.
No, I'm not aware of any unique
rules or anything.
Yeah, not anything to this county.
Okay. If someone sees a crime in commission, is still dialing 911 the best way to get that information?
That is absolutely the best way to go, and an important part of that I think is overlooked sometimes is to let the person who answers the phone on 911's end, let them hang up first. A lot of times we get incomplete information when somebody will report something and then hang up before we have a chance to ask all the questions that we want to ask. Plus, if you stay on there, you can provide updates until we arrive on scene, or until the fire truck or the ambulance or whatever type of situation it is. But yeah, if you can not disconnect until they tell you to, or until somebody arrives on scene, that's an important thing to remember.
The little tips that we get out of this show, right? Michelle, anything else on your mind?
No.
Okay, that's fine. You always see in all the police dramas and shows, they always have the morning roll call. Is that a real thing? Like where you?
Yeah, not exactly the way it goes there. We do have a shift briefing.
Okay. Do you try to motivate your guys? I shouldn't say guys and gals, to motivate them for that day's work, or if they got a tough shift or things are going on?
Yeah, I don't always do a great job of it, but I try to give people a pat on the back. Try to let them know, hey, you've done a great job on this incident over here, or I got a phone call or a message about this person you interacted with, and they said these things about you, or said how thorough you were, or how cordial you were, or things like that, because we don't hear.
A lot, right?
They do, and as you said earlier, with primarily the national media, we get beat up pretty good sometimes, and so I like to relay those positive things to, like you said, motivate them and perk them up a little bit.
I've always said many times, sometimes it's nice to live in Coles County.
Right. Right.
Not as many knock on wood problems. What is citizens, if they see you at the cafeteria or at lunch or supper, they come up to you and ask you the most? What do they want to talk about from their point of view?
It seems like kids always want to know, is that a real gun? Have you ever shot anybody? But really, I don't get a lot of questions. I get a lot of compliments, just a lot of thank yous, a lot of appreciate what you're doing, and I don't know if that's in response to what has been going on lately, that people see that we need that. I mean, it's genuine. I don't mean to imply that it's not. But just a lot of good people that I think know we could use that boost ourselves too.
Continuously new training? Are you always sending your officers and yourself to new training and seminars to kind of stay up on the latest tactics and ideas?
Yeah, and constantly having new regulations, new requirements, and it's becoming very challenging to meet those and still have people on the street. A lot of times we have to pull somebody off of a shift for them to go to a training class, and so now the shift is short, which then gets into budgetary problems. If you have to bring somebody in to backfill a spot, then you're having to pay overtime and all those types of things. So
how does overtime work into like a police budget? Are you allotted so much overtime, or do you have to get approval? Or
I have a line item for overtime, and we try to stay within that. But really, one of the, kind of the nature of the beast is we're going to have a certain amount of overtime regardless. But then you never know if somebody's supposed to get off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you have a traffic accident at 2:30.
Yeah.
You can't just tell them to wait a half an hour until the next guy comes on. So it's a bit of a juggling act.
There you go. When I know you're 4 months into this, or 5 months maybe, working on for the Coles County Sheriff's Department, Mr. Martin. But when you look at any crime stats, or is there anything alarming for Coles County that you think, man, we need to work on reducing meth or reducing, there's things that are around. I mean, there's stuff that stands out in your world or your mind.
Right. Fentanyl is a big concern, and that's not just here. I mean, that's nationally, and that is probably one of my biggest worries, because that stuff is just so deadly that I worry about my officers inadvertently touching it or coming across it. And if you get just a speck on you, then it can have devastating effects.
Yeah, I think about that.
Yeah.
Unsolved cases here in Coles County, do you spend time, or will you spend time on trying to go back 10, 20, 30 years and looking at things, or is it something you kind of are moving forward? I mean,
no, we can go back and look at some of those. Big problem right now is I should have three detectives in my investigation section. I've got 2, and one of them is now going to be gone for a little bit. They had a baby, so he feels like he has to be home for a little while.
Yeah,
I guess.
like that thing.
Yeah. So that's something we do. That's something I would like to be able to devote more resources to. But again, it's a balancing act between the new things coming in and trying to find time to go back and reinvestigate old things or re-examine the older cases.
Okay, that was just interesting. We're talking to Sheriff Kent Martin. We got a minute and a half left. Michelle, anything cross your mind?
But what are the patrolling like? Is it 2 to a car, or is it just one
Nope, we
person
have
out?
One-person cars. Sometimes we have.
Ride-alongs? Do you have ride-alongs at all?
I'm not sure if they do any at this agency or not, and I haven't got to that yet.
Yeah, you does them, I think.
Yeah, I know Mattoon used to. I don't know if they still do or not.
I know we haven't.
COVID kind of messed with that a little bit, too.
COVID kind of messed with that, and then there's so many, with liability issues and stuff, and privacy issues and all that kind of thing. It gets kind of tough to
All right,
make that work.
I always like to ask some silly questions at the end. We'll have time for a couple. Your favorite police TV show?
Hill Street Blues.
There you go. Police movie? Is there a cop drama movie you loved?
Probably maybe Dragnet.
Ooh,
back in the
yeah.
back in the 90s or whenever that would have been.
Yes or no? You ever had to arrest any of your friends?
Yes.
Man, it was right off. Favorite musical artist?
Favorite musical artist? Eagles.
Okay. I was hoping you didn't say the police. It was great seeing you again. Welcome to being the Coles County Sheriff, Kent Martin. We hope to have a good relationship with you here at WEIU. Thanks for coming in on this Monday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Michelle, thank you.
Thanks.
Everybody, have a great day. We are WEIU. Enjoy your Monday.